Good day to all you YouTubers out there or watchers wherever you are in the world. Mitch here from ePhones again. Just want to get back to you guys. We've had this router 3 in our offices for about a week now, and like I mentioned in the previous video, would like to do a little bit more of a detailed walkthrough of the router 3 and show you around it, and hopefully if things that we missed out in the previous video, you might be able to spot a thing or two in this walkthrough which will sort of answer questions, or maybe it will prompt a couple of other questions regarding what you see and what we talk about today. So I just want to talk about how I've set us up here in front of the camera today, just so that you know what state we're at. We've got a B818 device over here. So this is providing our internet. It's a mobile broadband device. We've got a little 4G SIM card that we've inserted into the bottom of that micro SIM card, and we've got it set up. We've gone through the setup of the B818 device, and then I have got an Ethernet cable, plugged it into the WAN port at the back of the device. So if I just tilt it like that, so you guys can see, we've got the two Ethernet ports here, and then we've got your RJ11 port. So on this model, your WAN port is in the middle there. So we've plugged in our Ethernet cable into our WAN port. That then allows us to give our Wi-Fi router its source of internet. This setup can vary for you folks out there, all depending how you've got internet coming to your home. This is a mobile setup basically, because that can be used anywhere. We're not reliant on any hard line coming to the house. We can pick that up and plug it anywhere with us, and we'll have internet right there. So this Wi-Fi router can work in a couple of ways. We can either set it up like I have here, where you've got your Ethernet going from this WAN port into the router 3's WAN port, and then again, for those of you who would like to, you can always disable the Wi-Fi name on this, or the Wi-Fi broadcast, so that you're not seeing two different Wi-Fi names. That is pure function of that is just providing the source of internet to your router 3, and then you've got that Wi-Fi 6 functionality across your Wi-Fi wherever you are. That Ethernet cable goes into the WAN port back of this router 3 over there, which is just next to the power source. Again, it tells you just on the bottom. So you've got WAN from the far left, and you've got your LAN 1, your LAN 2, and your LAN 3 port. We've plugged the Ethernet into the corresponding WAN port. So once I've done that, obviously power to them both, Ethernet cables to both WAN ports. I then went about setting up this setup, and the way I did that was I first dialed into my B818 and I just went through the setup process of that. In this instance, I haven't disabled the Wi-Fi broadcast. Once that was all configured, I then forgot that network because I don't want to use that, and went onto my router 3, found the Wi-Fi name, which you can find on the bottom of the device over there. Wi-Fi name Honor-A10E201E, and in brackets next to it, it does indicate that from the default settings, or from out the box, there is no initial password required. So I set it up using a phone, went onto the phone, and in your Wi-Fi settings, you just locate that Wi-Fi name. It'll immediately bring up a screen saying that you've connected to the Honor 3, and it will want to talk you through that initial configuration process, or that initial setup process for you. So it'll ask you, do you want to change your Wi-Fi name, your Wi-Fi passwords, and the password to access the device. So it'll talk you through that, fairly straightforward. And then because this has got Wi-Fi 6 capability, one of the last stages you get in that setup process is just the option whether you want to be able to fall back onto Wi-Fi 5 as well, and there's just a little slider key on that as well. Once you complete that, the device will just reboot itself if you have changed Wi-Fi names and passwords, and it'll ask you to access the device again. So that's that. We've got internet coming in. The other setup I mentioned, if you're not using a mobile broadband device, is if you're at home and you've got a hard telephone line coming into the building. That telephone line will be plugged into your broadband router, and then very much in the same manner as we've done today, you will connect your WAN port into your broadband router, and that will be your source of internet. The other way for it to work is if you've got a fiber cable that runs straight into the building and you're using that Ethernet cable straight into the fiber, so there won't be any broadband router that will be filtering through the traffic. It'll just be direct fiber cable straight into the building with an Ethernet port. I think I've got that right. Most of us will have that broadband in between those two just to link them up. I mentioned in the previous video that the internet speeds will always be reliant on whatever you've got breaking the link between your internet source and your Wi-Fi 6 speeds router. So depending on the traffic that broadband allows your data to pass through, obviously limits how quickly that that data can then push onto your end devices. Just one to keep in mind. So that's the other way you can have your setup at home, for example. I would like to just show you guys what functionality this provides. Not so much configuring it further, but more just walk you through what options and features you can configure in it. We'll talk a little bit about it so that, you know, like I said, you may see something in the mobile app, or we'll also access it from a laptop in the web user interface and just give you a walkthrough so you can see it all for yourself. It might be a bit more reassuring when you can see what type of functionality this provides as well as what options there are to give. So to start off with, I've got a Huawei P40 Pro here. I've downloaded the app AI Life, I think, if I'm correct. If you turn your router 3 upside down, there is a QR code. So that's just a quick link that'll direct you to your store to download the AI Life app. Nice and easy there instead of searching for it. Once downloaded, if you've not configured your router 3 yet, it'll just prompt you to do that. And then once you're connected to that Wi-Fi and all is secure, you can then go ahead and open your AI Life app. So let's go ahead and have a look at that. I'll just walk you through all the different options, functionality, and let you know what options there are. From then we'll move on to the laptop web user interface, and I'll just show you how that differs slightly in terms of the layout and format of your configuration. Here we go. Okie dokie. So quick snap to P40 Pro phone. I've downloaded the AI Life app, which is the Wi-Fi management tool, and I've connected to the Honor 3 router. So that's the home screen that it takes you once you've finished your setup. You see it gives you a connection status. It lets you know what the data traffic is, download speed and upload speed. It shows you how many devices have been connected, and you've got parental control functionality. And if there were any errors in the connection status, you've obviously got a tool to diagnose, and you've got your guest Wi-Fi. So I want to try and break this down as much as I can for you guys so that you know what everything is and where everything is and what it does, to give you a good idea if you were thinking about shouldn't I have it, what can it do for me, would it suit me. So let's go ahead and see what options we've got here. Connected devices, which is the P40 Pro that we're currently connected with. That was myself earlier. So you've got an offline device as well as the current connected device. Speed limit, you can add restrictions, allow internet access, so I could kick myself off the internet. Again, you've got the traffic that this device is currently using, device details, parental controls. You can put times on when they were to kick in and when they were to disconnect. So let's say hypothetically I only wanted my child on or to be able to use the internet between the hours of 6 p.m. and 7 p.m. Hypothetically, you can do that, and you can repeat that schedule to a certain timetable. Speed limit restrictions. So if we want to add speed limit restrictions, again, there you go, you can limit exactly how much you want to be able to upload and download as well. Very interesting. I suppose that's just sort of capping how much you can use. Have any changes? Yep, okay. So let's go back out of that, back to the main screen. Guest Wi-Fi. So guest Wi-Fi is currently turned off. I wanted to add a guest Wi-Fi on. There you go. You can customize the Wi-Fi name, password, again, and set how long you want that to be available for and any restrictions that you wanted to place on there. And if there was any issues, if we go ahead and click diagnose, internet connection, start, I beg your pardon, and that just lets us know that actually everything is running smoothly at the moment. So that's it from the face of the app. If we go ahead and show more, you've got updates. That'll let us know if there's any pending updates. The device is up to date. High link. Again, that just gives us our available devices that are connected to it and have been connected to it. Wi-Fi management. If you want to customize any of the Wi-Fi name, Wi-Fi password, if you want to hide your Wi-Fi network, it's all available on there. Again, at the top here, you've got an auto switch, and that just allows us, well, it says the 2.4 and 5 gigahertz network will be enabled at the same time. The faster one will be used by default. Disable this to manage the networks manually. So obviously that's currently on automatic, so the devices that are connected to the router will just talk to them in whichever frequency is most effective. Signal strength, choose a mode that's most suitable for you. So this, I gather, is referring to the Wi-Fi signal. Currently we've got it on the maximum setting, so I gather you would get the most distance out of your position from the router 3. Wi-Fi quality, again, you've got your channels that these work on. Do believe that this mostly, it kind of responds automatically, so it will choose which is the best channel to use. But it will do that, I think, to a certain schedule. If you do jump on for any reason and it hasn't done it yet, you will have the option to remove interference, and it'll reshuffle those channels around and pick the best one. Wi-Fi relay. Okay, so that's if you did want to use this router as a repeater, you would enable that setting. It would then search out for a secondary Wi-Fi name. You would connect to that, type in a password, and it would repeat that network name further on for you. So it would just, you can enable that repeating, or that here they call it Wi-Fi relay. And then you've got your WPS. Press the WPS button on your device. That there is just a quick connector option. In the previous video I showed you, we've got the WPS button on the face of the device. I try and just quickly throw that into view. In this instance, we're talking about that button right over there. And then you've got your backup Wi-Fi 5 network. Again, I enabled this, so any devices that are not Wi-Fi 6 compatible, Wi-Fi 5 will obviously kick in and take over. You can enable or disable that as well. So network settings, internet connection type, currently defaults to the current setting that I mentioned earlier of how we've set it up. Again, you've got these options to customize it, and you've got your IPv6 settings, and then into your router settings. So you've got the option to restart your device. We don't want to do that now because that will definitely kick me out. Set a timer of when you want your Wi-Fi to turn off and to turn back on. Currently no timetable set. So then you've got your router indicator light. You've got the option to turn these on and off. In my house, I've got a similar scenario with LEDs, whereby there could be a router or a mesh system or a repeater in your room that shines a very bright LED. Might bother some folks. You've always got the option of just turning that indicator off so that it's not keeping you awake at night, for example. Then you've got your login management. Change the login management password. So to access this menu, whether it be via a computer, laptop, or via the phone, from the very beginning, as I mentioned to you, it didn't come with a password. You set up that password as you go through the setup process. This is obviously just allowing you to change that password if you did, along with signing out as well. And then time zone, it just sets your time zone based on your location, daylight savings time as well. That covers all of the extra features, and that takes us back to the home screen. I do know there's 3 dots here. I want to see what that's about. So if I go ahead and click on that, that just tells us the information about our router 3, model number, serial number, IP address, runtime. Okay, and then all the legal bits as well. So that, through the AI Life, what is the picture of the rocket do? What does that do? All right, so that, again, that just filters our Wi-Fi, just seeing if we can remove any bad Wi-Fi spots. And that is it. I think I've shown you guys every bit of menu you can go into from the AI Life. I don't think I've missed anything out there. So now I want to go ahead and show you what it looks like accessing the configuration from a computer point of view. So we'll go ahead and get a computer set up and connect to our device from the computer, and just show you the sort of the different format that it is in, and how to get to that screen anyway. So guys, this is a cut to computer setup we've got here. So got the Honor 3 router going in the background. Again, I haven't changed any Wi-Fi names, so you can see at the bottom right there, this is the Windows 10 operating system. Pulled up my Wi-Fi list. Sorry about any background noise if you can hear it, but it is a very windy day today. It's tickling at the roof of our studio. So once you locate your Honor 3 Wi-Fi SSID, go ahead and click that. We'll automatically connect. It'll prompt you to type in the password. In this case, Windows also says we can access it by clicking the WPS button. I'm going to go ahead and try that, see if that works smoothly in this instance. So if I just hang on to click the WPS button once, let's see what happens. Okay, it looks like they are talking to each other. So I haven't had to type any passwords at the moment. I've got the router right next to me. So I just click the WPS button on the top of the router, and voila, nice and easy. No funny passwords to type out in this instance. So we connected, all is well. Once we've successfully connected to our router 3 over the Wi-Fi, we go ahead and open your web browser, what we want to do is just connect to the web UI. And to do that, we need to access the router via the router's IP address. And the default IP address for our Honor 3 router is 192.168.3.1, if I'm correct. Hit enter, and that should take us straight to our Honor 3 web user interface. So really, to put it quite simply, this is the menu in which you can customize your router from a computer or a laptop perspective. So if you need to configure any specific VPNs or anything like that, this is where you would go to. It's pretty common platform for most routers to dial in this way and configure the settings. So login password, well, I set that up earlier when I went through the setup process, and I set my login password to something different. Go ahead and press enter, and that takes you to your home screen, and it just gives you an overall status of your current connection. So we can see my router, my network, and my device is connected all the way through, and you can see it indicates the data traffic that's going on. It's also got how long this connection has been up and running, system runtime, and the WAN IP address. You do have a restart router link at the bottom there. Alright, let's see what else we've got in here. So most of your menu tabs are at the top. We're currently at the home menu, which, like I said, gives you an overall snapshot of the status. So if we go ahead and click on connect to internet, it's got your internet access mode, MTU, MAC clone, your VLAN, static DNS, options to enable or disable, VLAN mode, VLAN ID, PPP, OE, DHCP, bridge, or your static IP, internet access modes. Down here, your MAC clones, MAC clone, PC MAC address, manually enter your MAC address. So those fall under your connect to internet tab. Under MiFi, again, you've got the option to enable or disable your dual band optimization. So in this instance, we've enabled 2.4 and 5 gigahertz. I believe that comes default with the device, and obviously it will prioritize whatever works best for yourself. Here you've got the option to disable your Wi-Fi if you want to turn the broadcasting off. There's two ways to do that. Obviously in our setup, like I mentioned earlier on, it might be practical if you're working off a router setup to disable one of the Wi-Fi's. Just streamlines it, makes your Wi-Fi list have a lot less going on, so you know where to connect to. Doesn't mean you can't connect to them. A lot of operating systems will still allow you to access them manually. You would just need to type in the exact Wi-Fi name and then the password after that. So you've got the option to set your Wi-Fi name, set the security type, and obviously your Wi-Fi password. And as I mentioned earlier there, we've got the Wi-Fi 5 backup enabled. And like we saw in the AR Life app, the Wi-Fi power mode is currently set to max. So very similar to our app so far, it's just the format is slightly different. I don't believe that under the connect to internet tab at the top, I cannot remember seeing any of these settings to change and adjust. I'm not too sure if we didn't see that, but I'm pretty sure we covered everything. Can't remember seeing these type of settings to be able to configure this sort of setting through the AI Life app. So the third tab along is called Manage Device. Again, it's just got the devices that have been connected to the router 3. Of course, you can see the Huawei P40 Pro is on there, still connected, and we've got our current Huawei laptop that's connected. All the MAC address details and IP address details. Of course, you've got the option to disable internet or limit the internet rate, speed limit values in there as well. Currently, we haven't set any speed limits. That, again, like we showed you on the app, you can limit how much data traffic you want through the management screens. And more functions, far right. So this, again, I think is where you get a lot more breakdown of what's going on. So we've got the about screen, basic information. You've got the name, serial numbers, internet connection times, IP addresses, default gateways, all the works on there. Check to see whether your device is up to date. Again, this can be, you can select your device to either do it automatically and select a time frame in which you want your router 3 to check for updates. A lot of them do it sometime in the middle of the night just for convenience purposes, or you can manually check. If we turn that on, you could just manually check for updates whenever it's convenient for yourself. Network settings. So to the left here gives us a lot more. Again, this is where connecting to the web UI I prefer, just because I see a lot more of a breakdown of configuration. The apps are a brilliant simplified way to manage your device in the palm of your hand very quickly, very easily. But for those folks who prefer a lot more of a custom setup or configured setup, I find it's a lot more practical to do it from this approach, because you can really dial into all the features of the router. So there, down the left hand side, you've got your LAN settings, you've got your VPNs, your virtual private network configuration, IPTV setup. Once enabled, you go bridge mode settings, UPnP. Again, select that just so you can see what options it brings up. Link Plus settings. Link Plus, please restart your router after enabling Link Plus. When disabled, use not now. For those of you who are not familiar with everything, it will always give a brief explanation near the top just to cover it for you. Link Plus settings. You can form a Link Plus Wi-Fi network by connecting several devices that support the Link Plus function. In this network, all devices will use the same settings as the main router, including Wi-Fi name, password, login password, Wi-Fi timer, Wi-Fi blacklist versus whitelist, time zone, etc., etc. So if you're not too sure what the feature does for you, it is briefly summed up above there for you. IPv6 settings, again, if you want to enable that, and then it'll give you your drop down features. I do remember enabling that on the phone, but it did not give us any of those features. It was a blank screen. I'm not too sure what happened there, but on there you can see if we enable that, it gives you more configuration options. If we scroll down further, you got your Wi-Fi settings. So we've got advanced settings. You've got your 2 channels there, 2.4 and your 5 gigahertz. And if you wanted to configure them in any specific way, Wi-Fi access control, again, if you wanted to block users from accessing the device, and that will bring up a list of those users. Guest Wi-Fi, you can turn that on very much like we saw in the app. Turn it on, you can turn it on for a specific amount of time and set its security, limit its network speed as well. I mentioned to you on the app as well, they called it a router relay. Here it's Wi-Fi repeater. So again, if we enable that, the router will just repeat a previous or a different network that you wanted to extend. It'll turn itself into more of a bridge, whereby it will then search for any other broadcasting Wi-Fi's, connect to it, and then repeat that onto, just to expand your field of Wi-Fi. Wi-Fi timer, again, you can configure any on-off times that suits you or your setup. And then if we move on to security settings, so we've got your firewall. Again, if we go up, a firewall is a barrier between your home network and the internet. When the firewall function is enabled, all communication data between your home network and the internet must be scanned by the firewall, protecting your network security. By default, that is on. NAT services. By setting forwarding rules on your router, internet users can easily access server resources such as your personal website and FTP server provided by your computer. So again, you've got your NAT services and configuration there. DMZ host, automatically chosen the Huawei 40 Pro. Parental controls, as mentioned before in the AI Life app, again, you can set devices, on-off times, speeds, full configuration there. If we move on to system settings, we've got, you can change your login password. That login password refers to getting into this web UI. Network time, that is our local time configuration. If we wanted to back up and restore, you've got the option over here, restore any settings. Diagnosis, any faults with the device, that will give you a quick diagnosis. Press reset button within 30 seconds. Well, we're going to need a reset pin, aren't we? But if I don't do it, press H button within 15 seconds. So if I press that, okay, well, it was a good trial by error test there. So I didn't have a little reset pin to press the reset button, but it shows you it's an effective diagnosis because I've clearly failed on that test there, but passed the other tests. Developer options, you can debug your router using the functions provided on this page. I'm not going to go into that now, but it gives you the option. And then last of all, your application. So that is it. I think I've covered most of the features and configuration. We can dial a lot more into this if we start setting VPNs or everything up, but it's really just to show you viewers what you can see and what you can get with this router. So on the surface, you know, it's your Wi-Fi 6 router, 3000 megabits per second speeds for a really reasonable price. On the surface, nice and easy to use, brilliant way to manage the device on a simple flat platform with the AI Life app. And for those of you who are a little bit more advanced, you can dial into this web UI and you can really stretch the configuration that best suits you, whatever your setup is at home. I hope I've been able to give you a good snapshot of how you can flex the Router 3's muscles for your setup. But like I said, if you think I've missed something, or if there's something you'd like us to try out, by all means, please let us know in the links below. Okay guys, so we've looked into the device from a mobile app point of view. We've also shown you a brief walk around from a computer or laptop perspective, and all the different configuration that you can dial into and customize. Thank you very much for watching. I hope that might prompt a couple of questions or answer some of the questions you had. If you did spot anything that you would like us to elaborate any further on, like I said, please get in touch, put it in the comments below, and you can always jump on and have a look and get back in touch with you with the answers. Thank you very much for watching. Take care. Bye bye.